I finally got the Shugart ST506 perfectly working fine on a Western Digital hard drive controller with a customized patched BIOS. So I will show you exactly how I did it, and then let's look how this hard drive boots does and how it will perform. First of all, I want to show you something. Below my last video, where I almost got the hard drive to run, Daniel RS3 commented, gave me some hints, and also wrote this link to the Vintage Computer Federation org website. And I had already seen this website before indeed, but it didn't help me at that time because I had no DTC controller whatsoever they are writing about. In this forum entry, the interesting thing is that Modem 7 writes that he modified the ROM of a DTC controller, namely the DTC 5150BX. And it has 4 table entries for 4 different hard drives, or even more in this case. He modified drive table entry number 7, which was unused, and put these values inside. As you can see, these are the values for the ST506 hard drive. But the interesting thing is this, the step rate, because the 506 only supports unbuffered stepping, and unbuffered stepping means that the hard drive basically behaves like a dumb floppy drive and has a very low stepping rate of 3 milliseconds or more. So this is actually the delay, not a rate. So you have to wait at least 3 milliseconds for it to perform stepping. And this byte here is so-called option byte, and in this option byte this is encoded. So option byte, as I saw on my controller, is usually 5 or 7, and if you change it to 0 and the controller does recognize it, it means that the controller will actually perform unbuffered stepping and set the stepping rate to 3 milliseconds. And then there are 3 more parameters which should set the maximum timeout for drive ready format and some kind of general timeout. I have no idea what exactly this is. However, what I did next, because I still did not have this DTC 5150BX, I got, however, a Western Digital controller, namely this one, Western Digital 1002A WX1 hard disk controller, and this the card looks like this, and there are several type of cards with several BIOS versions, and depending on the BIOS version, the jumpers have different settings, different possibilities for settings. Mine has the Super BIOS, and with the Super BIOS you have 4 different drive table entries inside the card ROM, and you can choose one out of these 4 hard drive types. And first I wanted to make sure that I had these drives, so I executed store command. It has an option ROM list, and then it outputs the table entries of the ROM onto the screen. So I made sure which geometry parameters I really have in my ROM card. And what I did then, I compared the contents of this table with the contents of the ROM. And I used hexdump for it, and as you can see, if you scroll up right to the beginning of the ROM, you can see the ROM entries beginning here at offset 43 hex. And this is 0264. 0264 is exactly 612. The next entry is 16 bytes later, 0132. 0132 is exactly 306. Then 0267 0267 is 615, and we have this value twice. So this is correct. Then we have 4 heads, 4 heads, 2 heads, 4 heads. Then we have 1 C2 099, 1 C2 1 C2, and this is for the precompensation, and the same value again for the write current. Because if you go further out on the platter, it means that the angular velocity increases. You come from the larger angular velocity to the slower angular velocity, and if you read from the areas where the platter moves slower with respect to the coil, this means you get less induction, and therefore you need to amplify the signal more, and this is done by these parameters. And also you have some kind of ECC burst bits. I also don't know what exactly they do. Something with error correction, of course. And then this is the option bit 05. This has to do with the stepping delays. And I set I patched these to 0, and also the rest of the geometry. And then I had a wild guess, because the guy on the website, he writes about these delay values. And if you look closely, if you compare the hex contents of my Western Digital card, it has exactly the same record here, the same data structure, except these FF. And I just had a wild guess and added these FF parameters for these entries also. And then I'm left with some kind of padding bytes, and he has 4 padding bytes. So I just assumed that the type of entry would be the same as on the DTC controller card. And then I wrote a small C program, patch C. Here I put my values. This is the number of cylinders, 153, 4 heads. Then we have write compensation, reduced write current above cylinder 128. The number of ECC burst bits is 11, so OXOB. Then we have the slowest possible stepping rate, and this seems to be the landing zone. I'm not quite sure about it, but this also differs from the entry here on the website. However, and then I added 3 times FF, and I cannot say for sure if this has an effect, but it's just a wild guess. If not, then it's ignored. If yes, then it sets some timeouts. So what I do now, I open the file, I seek to the correct position, I write the records, and I write it for all 4 drive table entries, because with all the jumper setting possibilities I was not sure which drive was actually selected for drive 0, which drive type. So I just wanted to be sure that my entry is the only possible entry that takes effect. And then in the very end we have to make sure that the checksum is correct. So I just overwrite the last byte of the file by 0, and then I sum up all the bytes in the file, and then I subtract this from OX100. So I negate, I do not, sum is not sum plus 1, and then I write the checksum again to the last byte of the file. Then found some matching 27C64 ROM chip, and I used Mini Pro to program the ROM chip. And this means whenever the PC boots up with this controller, no matter how the jumper settings are, it will use this new entry of the hard drive controller ROM to set the hard disk type. Thanks to this forum. Thank you very much.
So here you can see my new Western Digital controller card with my self-burnt patched BIOS version. Let's power it up, and I have removed the a floppy image, and this means the system can only boot from drive C now. Boot failed, so press F for the original IPL, and as you can see, DOS has booted from drive C, and now we have the full capacity even. CD DOS, no path is set, but here you can see we have no errors whatsoever. The drive performed perfectly. Oh, this is a very old DOS version. So let's just make another copy of DOS. So let's create a directory, DOS2, and now let's just copy all files. Into the DOS2 directory. As you can see, it works perfectly, no error whatsoever. Here you can see the actuator motor. And also the LED. Now all files have been copied, and now we have 3 megabytes left. Yeah, that it is. Now we also, I think we also have, what programs do we have? We have nothing interesting. It would be fun to, yeah, we have SS Store. I can show you SS Store utility, and yeah, it takes some time to load, and manual setup, you see actually complete bullshit. So you see 4096 cylinders with a total capacity of 2 gigabytes, and that's completely nonsense because it does not understand the 153 cylinder entry I did. So here the tools get to an end, the tool support, but still it works. And I only used it with and also something interesting, if you start debug, and I had also problems with executing the ROM, you have to type the equal sign. You have to type G equals C805, and then it will enter the low-level format utility. If you do not type the equal sign, it will just run some random program. So let's see how it boots again. I will zoom in onto the actuator model and standard EPL. That's it, DOS is booted. CD DOS directory. Yeah, everything is fine. So now if you have actually seen a pre-era hard disk drive on a PC hardware,
a PCXT board, booting DOS 3.3 with just a small BIOS table entry modification and no extra hardware needed. And thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.